Okay, so we are live and in effect and finally have everything set up and going from the phone again this week. So I'm not able to go straight to Facebook like I want to, but definitely got some great news. Pre-orders for those that use Kindle is up. Pre-orders for uh, pre-orders for the paperback. It should be coming soon. Then once we release, the audio book will be available as well. So watching right now, make sure that you go ahead. If you're a Twitter, I mean not a Twitter, but a Kindle user, go ahead, click that link. Click that link. Go ahead, reserve your copy now. Reserve it now. That way you can get caught up on all the stuff that it is that we've been talking about and going to talk about, and some of the stuff that we haven't talked about that we're gonna get into. All right. So big shout out to all my family that came down last weekend. Definitely enjoyed y'all. Got a chance to see my mom and what I think about 4 or 5 years since the last time I saw her. So it was great. Um, big shout out again to the frequency um, hosting the men's event. How will we respond? It was great. Definitely enjoyed speaking out there. Well, you already know what it is. We about to jump into this topic, into this conversation. Or not. Hey, what's the topic for the week?
The topic for today is what is the difference between parenthood from the 60s and 70s when our grandparents and parents was coming up till now? How did society affect how we raise our kids today?
Okay. Hey, before we answer, man, give them a little backstory of how this topic came up.
Okay, so this topic came up last weekend after we did the episode on Saturday. I was at T-Mobile. And this woman told me she was on Facebook Live talking about how it seemed like men today are scared to date women. And she was interested on what we be talking about on our podcast. And there was a elderly Caucasian couple listening, and they were blown away by the topics that we be discussing. So they were just chiming in on what we were talking about today. And she was one. The wife said something about they took the mothers out of the home. You have to have a two-parent income in order to be successful or just to barely make. And the husband was like, they took God out of everything. There's no religious aspect to hold anybody accountable for anything. So that is how we came up with this topic of discussion for today.
All righty. So the topic of the discussion for today pretty much is uh, the difference between parenthood back in our grandparents, great grandparents' days versus our days right now. Too easy, too easy. Lee, you want to drop your thoughts first?
Oh, man. All right. Well, yeah. So my thoughts on that is the difference between then and now is people are shamed. People are shamed today for what it took to raise, for what people were doing to raise children in the past. So these last two generations are, I feel, are generations of a lot of pride, a lot of ego, and haughtiness. And the things that it took to raise outstanding men and women, people are looking at those things today like that's a slavery mentality. And we got away from doing the things that it took to raise children that would grow up to be assets. And now, because we've got away from from those fundamentals, we're raising children that grow up to be liabilities in a lot of senses. Underdeveloped men. You have the modern woman today, feels she grows up and she thinks that she can have it all, and nobody can have it all. Um, some people refer to the 80-20 rule. You find somebody that's got 80% of what you're looking for, and you work with the rest. That used to be something that innately, I think, our grandparents, our parents, in some cases, depending on how young you are, and our great grandparents and so on, they understood that, and men were required to do things in the traditional sense today and yesterday, but women have made a shift today, and I think a lot of it is having those skill sets like being clean, cooking, rearing the children. Those things are kind of frowned upon now and made to look like those things are weak, because we talk about we live in a two-parent household today, and a lot of it really boils down to cutting choices out for the sake of the long-term goals. And what we end up doing is we end up leaving strangers to raise our children. And when strangers are raising our children, then the outcome of our children is going to be predicated on the person that's predominantly spending time doing the rearing of our children, or lack thereof. So I think that's the difference today. We have gotten away from the fundamentals and the passion for the fundamentals to do the things that we need to do to raise our children to be assets in this world. And when you get away from your fundamentals in anything, the repercussions of that is there are going to be some holes, voids, and liabilities.
Yeah.
That's my piece.
So, you want to speak your piece, D? What's your thoughts?
Mine is, it's as simple as I definitely agree with the wife. Once society forced it to where it took a woman to leave the house too, that's when everything changes now. There's none of that you know how they say big mom or grandmom to help raise the kids and pass down that motherly instinct down to the younger female generation. All that stuff got erased now. I'm just gonna leave it there for right now.
All right, so I'm gonna ask a quick question, right? That just so everybody get the synopsis. I already know the answer, but the husband, right? He was sole provider, right?
Yes.
And the wife was a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home wife.
Correct.
All right, so it's two aspects of that, right? That the first one is the sole provider or whatnot. That's something that I think men and these later generations are afraid of. The reason that I say that is because all the responsibility as far as providing is on your shoulders. Literally. The lights get turned off, guess whose fault it is? Yours. There ain't no food on the table, guess whose fault it is? It's yours. And they're not willing to accept that type of responsibility, which is reason why you have these underdeveloped men around here talking about they want an independent woman, all this extracurricular stuff or whatnot, because they don't want to take care of that responsibility. At the same time, jokers is lazy.
That's a fact.
Jokers is lazy. When you the sole provider, it forces you to go out there and have to work extremely hard, harder than what you normally would, in order to be able to provide everything that is needed from a financial standpoint for your family. For your family. You know, and jokers nowadays is just lazy. They don't want the responsibility. And they don't want to have to put in the time and the effort. You know, but a developed man is gonna take pride in it. It's gonna take pride in it. And he's gonna use his mind to figure out how can I grow myself so that I can grow my family. You know, we make it harder than what it actually needs to be or has to be. The back end of that is the stay at home wife or the stay at home mom. It's something that's not. It's something that is frowned upon nowadays. It's frowned upon. Um, I think I talked about it before, and I know I definitely talk about it in the book in reference to like the TV shows and stuff that we watch. You know, you can look at all the TV shows where you had other nationalities, right, showing their families. You know, it was always the husband was the sole provider, the mama stayed at home. And I use Married with Children as one of the prime examples, right? Because you had Al Bundy, who is this shoe salesman, right? But Peggy was still a
Let's
stay
stay
at home.
home.
And we already know he didn't make a whole lot of money, but still stay at home mom. Now, on the other spectrum, the most successful looking family that we had, you know what I'm saying, and within our community was the Cosbys. You had doggone Cliff, that was doctor, and then you had Claire, that was a lawyer. You know, but the synopsis is in order for them to be that successful, it had to be a two-parent home, and they had to have excellent jobs. Excellent jobs. You look at the same spectrum of Married with Children, you got Good Times. James, work. Florida, work. It's as simple as that. And that's the synopsis that has been given, you know what I'm saying, for our households. That in order for us to function and operate, both parents have to literally have to work. And literally, it doesn't have to be that way. Yes, society has made it hard or not to be able to provide for your family and uh, have that mother stay at home. But there are other ways around it. Yeah, so many different ways around it. My wife, she hasn't worked since what 2011, so the last 10 years, and we have survived. We have survived. When I say it's more than doable, it's more than doable. But that is for me the biggest difference between then and now, and you see it within our communities. You see it within our communities. You know, I'm just gonna take it for surface value. At surface value, right? You know, it means something. Think about it this way, right? How many of us up here play sports? Play any type of sports?
Everybody.
Just about everybody, right? How did you feel when your parents or a parent was there to watch you and cheer you on?
I mean, it's one of the best feelings ever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But when they wasn't there, how did you feel?
Miserable.
Sunken.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So literally when you have that two-parent household, it's not always guaranteed that those things that your children want to do and desire to do, you're always going to be able to be there to support. But that when you have that one parent that's actually in the house or not on a regular, or they always have that time to be able to support, and that's after school. We ain't talking about in school or not, because most times they're even more active in school as well. But it's a
And
significant.
I will say, you always used to feel real jealous when you had events going on at school and your parents weren't there, and you know your buddy, his parents seemed to always be there, passing out cookies and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's a significant difference. Significant difference. You know, and I say it all the time. I can see a significant difference in my kids, being that my wife has been at home with them basically their entire lives, versus the ones that didn't. You know, but it's something that's needed. But I'm gonna jump off my horn because I'm trying to keep my comments. Jump off my soapbox, or trying to keep my comments within a
Hey, like
specific.
real talk, I would definitely say this. I remember when my twin brother and I was growing up, and our mama, if I remember correctly, she was still a stay at home mom at the time. She used to have us educating, where I was doing significantly well in school, and I prepared. And I'm like, we talking about before kindergarten and all that stuff. I was reading by the age of 3. My twin brother, he was doing multiplication when he was 6, and knew what he was doing on top of that. She just had the time. She had the time to sit down and teach us. There was even creative ways that she would come up to, with to teach us. Like, one thing that stands out, I remember that she used to, in order for us to learn the alphabet, she used to turn on Wheel of Fortune. That's how we learned our letters and stuff of that nature. But she had the time to teach us everything that we needed to know in order to excel in school. And
So
You
now,
know,
especially in this pandemic, it seems like that parents don't even want to take the time to try to help their kids out.
mm-mm,
mhm.
nope.
Like they think it's like they think they're missing out on something in these streets.
Yeah.
I I know for me, I see the difference with my children because my wife stays home with the children. And yeah, my wife's got her bachelor's degree and so on and so forth. And my wife could go out there and get a job and make so much money. But sometimes when we think about things emotionally, we just think about what feels good at the moment. But when we start really thinking through things, we start having a different outlook. And for me, it used to be I had to sit down and I had to think about the cost that it would take to have those children. Say, for an example, right? Once upon a time, it was about $400 and some dollars a week to send one of my children to daycare. And so we have 3 children. So you're talking about $1,200 a week. Okay. We're talking about close to $5,000 a month just for daycare. We're talking about $60,000 a year just for daycare. We ain't talking about anything else. We're just talking about daycare, right? And she goes out there and she gets a job. And how much money does she have to make to justify her going out there? It's pointless for her to go out there and get a job just to make enough money to cover the daycare expenses. And half of the time today, because typically women want to be responsible for little to none of the bills when they do work. So that actually puts more strain on the man for her to go out there and work, because when she gets her money and everything like that, what's to say that she doesn't want to go out there and do the things that she feels that she wants to do with that money? Maybe she's not taking that money and going out and investing those things. And even if she was a good steward over her money and she went out there and then she invested her money for her family and things of that nature and took a small pinch out for herself, the issue with that is how much money would she need to make to justify her going out there? Because I can think of a million things that my wife being at home, it actually keeps money in the home more so. And it's just funny that you said that, Yane, that the image and the propaganda that's pushed on us when we see a black family at home is totally different than we see any other ethnicity of people at home. It's always, 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 whether it's a rich family or whether it's a poor family, they figure out what their means are and they live within their means. Meanwhile, we are so committed to trying to keep up with the Joneses. We need to make sure that we have the right You know, we got to have the designer bags and the shoes. We got to style on them. We got to let them know, see, we doing well. When at the end of the day, folks don't really care about you and your situation. They smile and turn around and talk about you behind your back anyway. So you'd be better off figuring out the best dynamic that's going to work for your family. And if she's not, and we're not even talking about if your wife isn't at home, you know, somebody's got to cook the food. Oh, nobody cooked the food today. Let's go ahead and stop by Popeye's Chicken. Let's go ahead and pick up some chicken and let's spend $30, $40. Okay. Let's do that 5 days a week. Okay. You know, let's spend $800 extra a month for some food when we could go ahead and we could make a nice meal that could stretch us for 2-3 days. We ain't asking to cook every day. So these are some of the things that I think we're just ahead of ourselves, and we're filtering, men and women, we're filtering our logic through our emotions, and we're not thinking things through. And we need to start thinking things through and looking down the road as far as we can, because we're shooting ourselves in the foot trying to keep up with this propaganda machine that they say that we see on TV and in social and being projected over social media.
Chris said in the chat that society has affected parenthood and that it provided excuses for parents to not be fully effective in parenting. We have accepted this easy way out regardless of the stipulations, i.e. government assistance that push fathers out of the home.
Mm-hmm.
True. Straight up and down true. Or not, because in order to get like housing and stuff of that nature, they still have it where the man can't be in the home. Literally. You know.
Okay. I want to make this point. Not speaking for the mothers anymore. I want to speak about the father. When that husband told me, he said that they took God and religion out of everything now. I just had this conversation probably about 2 days ago. And I definitely have to agree. It's not even about just how you raise your kids, like, you know, how you try to instill morals and principles into them. You cannot disagree with society norms anymore. You have to conform to everything. If you disagree in the slightest with anything, you will be crucified now. Whether it's somebody's sexuality, it's how somebody disciplines their kids, to what type of job they have. If you go against the grain, it's a problem. And to me, that's one of the big issues in society right now.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
You and me both. You know, it's funny, you know, because I'm put up. It's our fault. It is our fault. We let it get to this point. The question is, how do we correct it? Because quite frankly, we get right now.
There is any correct. I don't think so.
No, it's always it's always hope. It's always hope. And for me, it's a matter of changing the narrative. But one thing that I do know is definitely gonna be an uphill battle, because one, dealing with us men first, like I said, we lazy. We lazy than the mud or not. So, you know, we're gonna have to restructure and rebuild our men to where they take pride once again in providing for your doggone family. Period. You know, providing, protecting, teaching. And I'm talking about every aspect, not just financial. I'm talking about providing financially, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, in every aspect where they take pride in it. You know, the same thing with protecting. They got to take pride in it. You know, nowadays and they need an example as well, because right now there are no examples. Name one.
Mm-hmm.
Not in social media, not in the media. There are no examples at all.
Got to be an example.
The hottest doggone couple out here right now is Jay-Z and motherfucking Beyonce, and they both work. Literally, they both work. They hire a nanny, or they get some doggone nanny or something of that particular nature that's taking care of their doggone kids, and people feel like you arrived when you've done that. No, no, not at all.
That nanny ain't gonna love your kids. That nanny ain't gonna love your kids like you love your kids. That
Nope.
nanny ain't gonna understand the intricacies of your child. See, the child has 46 chromosomes, 23 dad, 23 mom. There's things that only dad will understand, and there are things that only mom will understand to be able to get out of that child. Why is this child acting this way? Well, this child is acting that way because I used to act this way, and I struggle with that, and I remember how I overcame that. So I'm gonna give my child wisdom and help them overcome that before experience teaches them, like experience taught me, and then I'm gonna set my child on the right path with that. And we're gonna have to do that. We're gonna have to do that, and it might be a thankless job, but we have to think about the generations to come. Right now, as it stands, each generation from the last, I'd say 2 or 3 generations, each generation seems to get more and more behind the 8 ball. So we're going to have to change the narrative on that. And what's that's going to take? That's going to take us being living sacrifices and doing the things that we need to do. And we can't worry about if we're going to get some type of praise or some type of monetary gain for it. It's going to be a thankless job in some instances. But the question is, are you living for the praise or are you living for the results?
I think with us changing the narrative on the men, it's not going to be as hard as changing the narrative on the female side. And the reason why I say that is because, quite frankly, I don't believe our women want to come back home.
Yeah.
The glitz and the doggone glamour that has been presented in reference to the workforce and having your own, being independent, that is going to be a hard one to change the narrative on.
So what can men do about that?
To be honest, I don't think there's anything we can do. We have to really empower the women that are all for that understands from a mental standpoint. They understand exactly the impact of them being at home has, you know what I'm saying, in the household and within the community.
But see, but that's the thing. There's a lot of women now in this society that don't even want to deal with their own kids. That goes back to the whole thing about, the pandemic with schooling. They don't want to deal with it.
Nope.
You get paid to teach my child. You deal with it.
Don't get me wrong.
Right.
There are some women out there, because I've talked to them, there's some women out there that don't want to work. They want to be at home. But they feel like, no, I'm not going to say they feel like, it's a matter of us as men being able to prove that we can maintain security, make sure they still feel secure. You know what I'm saying? Like, not going to be able to get your wife to stay at home and do nothing if she doesn't feel secure.
That's right.
If
That's
she
the
don't
reason
feel
why
like the bills are going to be paid, no.
that goes hand in hand with, I know that there's a lot of women, especially black women, they get this negative connotation that they don't want to submit. And it's not the fact that they don't want to submit. You got to give them something worthy to submit to. So it's like you're saying about how can you get them to stay at the home? Are you capable of making enough money to get them to stay in the house?
But what is money though?
A lot of people they lazy.
Whose standard are we gonna go off of? Are we going off their standard or are we going off of ours?
We need to go off our standard.
And that's something that needs to be presented or whatnot. That's gonna have to be understood or whatnot, because that's even the whole giving them something to submit to. Are we going based off their standard or are we going based off our standard? Because you have a lot of women out here that have that Prince Charming complex. that
Mm-hmm.
restaurant complex or whatnot, and that shit is unrealistic in the mug. And we'll never be able to meet in the middle or whatnot if we don't make that understood. That look, you know, long as them bills and stuff is getting paid and something is going to the savings, you can sit your ass at home.
Now, with that being said, I'm gonna play devil's advocate with this. I do agree. A lot of women do have that Prince Charming complex, but sometimes the men is like, I've been trying to tell people this sometimes too. Some people be like, I want a boss, I want a boss, I want a boss. Everybody isn't meant to be a boss. If everybody is a boss, who gonna be the employee? Who gonna be the worker? Your man don't, 9 times out of 10, he probably ain't got the mentality to be a boss. You got to understand what you're dealing with. And you got to ask yourself, is that on him or that's on you? You chose him. So you got to play the cards that you were dealt at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just that simple. That's just how the cookie crumbles.
You know, I got to thinking about this today, D, and I agree with what you're saying there. I got to thinking about this today. I think for us men, and I want to deal with the women, but I'm not going to because I don't feel like, I feel like we got to deal with the men. So I'm gonna keep it with the men. I think so many times, and I'm gonna choose my words carefully. I think so many times. Well, now I mean I'm gonna choose my vulgarity carefully. I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say, but I feel like men are so gung ho about chasing tail that they forget the discipline that it takes for the development that they need to have to put them in a stratosphere to deal with and acquire the type of women that they want. So when we start talking about what women are looking for, all of these women are very loud in terms of what they're looking for. They want a man to take care of all of the bills. They want to feel protected. They want to feel secure. In general, that's what they want. So it would behoove a man to just focus when he gets out there in the real world. It would behoove him to focus and concentrate on building himself up to who he ought to be. That means focus on your career path. Focus on you and the qualities that it takes to be an outstanding man. And you'll put yourself in a category where you can choose because, and women may not want to hear this, but women outnumber men by a mile. And because women outnumber men by a mile, look, don't laugh, because women outnumber men by a mile, you put yourself in a position to be selective. So when you do run across somebody who's looking for Prince Charming and these unrealistic expectations, you've got the leverage to be able to say, you know what, thank you, but no thank you. You can move on and you can be more selective about it. But when you don't have your stuff together and you see a beautiful woman, she might not be developed. She might not be developed as she should be to be able to do the things that she needs to do at that particular point in her life. You having a thirsty mindset, you're just like, man, but I ain't gonna never run across somebody that look this good, somebody that's this fat, somebody that makes me feel this way, this, that, and the other. I better take it. And now you're undeveloped, so you're a disservice to her. And then she has this perception of what you should be. And so all you're doing is you're just prolonging the agony and the inevitable of a split. And ain't nobody got time to waste. So we got to focus and concentrate as men to be disciplined about the things that we need to do. And it's almost like we need to understand ourselves so much. It's just like you have a resume at home and you keep it with you or you keep it nearby. And when an opportunity presents itself, you ready to go. You ready to show the opportunity that you got a resume together. And this is exactly what you're looking for. This is your pay grade, this, that, and the other, da, 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 da. We got to have that kind of mindset about ourselves. We know who we are. We develop the things that we need to develop. We open ourselves up to constructive criticism so we can get better. And then once we get ourselves together, then we can start looking at the strengths and weaknesses that we have. And then we can start saying, okay, well, this is what I need in a woman that's going to best suit my vision. And if we can get to that particular point, then we can process or eliminate a lot better, and we can have a better selection that fits what we're trying to do.
Yeah. So what will we say to the men that are already married out there?
I think that, well, D, do you want to handle this?
No, because I'm not married, so I ain't familiar with.
All right, okay, that's fair enough. Okay, what I think what married folks need to do is because a lot of times we've gotten married on a faulty foundation. I think that married folks need to take a step back within their relationship, and they need to try to figure out what they're bringing to the table, and also what they expect to be brought to the table. And they need to be honest about what it is that they're willing to do, willing to compromise on, and willing to let go, all in all, both sides. And then finding out if they can have a mesh point so they can continue their relationship, so they can shore up things for a long-term future. Now, I know nothing's guaranteed, but a lot of times you have couples that are married for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. The foundation is faulty and shaky because those things were never addressed. Because let's just be honest, a lot of us are getting married without free counseling. A lot of us are jumping into things for the wrong reasons. And so we need to just sit back and we need to think about those things. And then we need to come to the table and make it a deal that's going to be prudent for the woman and prudent for the man. And if they can't come to the conclusions of what they're looking for, they would be better served possibly looking at not prolonging the agony. Because a lot of marriages think, oh, I've been married for 20 years, I've been married for 30. They've been holding on by the string all this time.
I think my advice is this, right? I agree with to take a step back, but what I'm gonna add to that is don't add nothing, don't take anything away at all. What I mean by that is don't add no new bills, don't take nothing away. Figure out how much it is that you need to make.
That's it.
Figure out how much it is that you need to make in order to keep your wife at home. Because y'all gonna have to keep coasting until you build yourself up. And I'm not just talking about going out here finding a doggone job that's gonna pay you more, anything like that. Figure out what it is that you like to do and turn it into your side hustle. And turn that side hustle into a business.
That's it. A legal business. Verifiable.
Once you build, give yourself some time. It's gonna be a slow grind. Give yourself some time. Well, after 2, 3, 4, 5 years done pass, you'll see it. You will see it, and you'll see it come. But at the same time, you need to make sure you have that conversation with the wife and let her know exactly what it is that you're trying to do. And make sure, because some of us, or whatnot, get into that dominant state. And what I mean about that is that I pay all the motherfucking bills, so you need to do what the fuck it is I tell you to, type ordeal. And they ain't going. I'm telling you now.
If a damn show don't always work.
I'm telling you now, they ain't going. They ain't going at all. They gonna fight you tooth and nail. They need to know and be assured that, okay, yes, you staying at home and things of that particular nature or whatnot, but what you're doing in the house is just as important or even more important than what I'm doing outside the house. We on equal footing. Just because I'm bringing in the bacon, nigga, literally, you're doing what it is you're supposed to be doing. Let's look at it that way. You're doing what it is that you're supposed to be doing. We're saying that I got this. I need you to take care of the house. I'm gonna work so that you can stay at home or not and tend to the house, tend to these kids, so that our homes become better.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at it this way, right? Look at it this way. We're gonna play the numbers game real quick. When y'all work, the average person works what? 8 hours a day, right?
Huh?
8 hours a day. Now, I'm gonna be nice and say y'all both work the same shift. No, no, because if you don't work the same shift, then you just. I'm gonna say y'all both work the same shift, 8 hours a day. All right. It's only 24 hours in a day. You work 8 hours, you should be sleeping at least 8 hours as well. So that's 16 already gone. 16 hours already gone. You only got 8 left. Whatever your commute to and from work is, you gotta subtract that time. However long it take you to get them kids ready, you gotta subtract that time. You gotta subtract the time that it's gonna take you when you do get home, help kids with their homework, cook and everything else. Or not
Getting ready for bed.
how much time do you actually have left?
Ain't much
Most,
of a relationship.
yeah, and we just talking about for the family. We're not talking about the husband and wife, how much time they got left to build and everything else or whatnot. You might have.
Yeah.
I'm real generous and say y'all might have 2-3 hours. Is that really enough time to be to prepare our kids for this world?
And I'll add something to what you just said that there too. How much energy do you have after all of those things are done?
Yes.
Are you fit for life? Are you fit for marriage?
For real. For real. That is the honest God truth. And then think about it. Think about it this way, right? That's 8 hours of your kids. You only getting about 2-3 hours a day. And you have another individual getting 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week with your kids, imparting into them. And how many of you have time to go and see exactly what it is they teaching our kids?
Boy, you see some of the stuff they doing in them daycares of them kids, boy.
I ain't gonna talk about daycares. The wife own a daycare, so I ain't gonna talk about daycare. She's good at what she do. You know, I know because I know how she operate with my kids. So she be around there. She around there having them kids, 2 and 3 year olds. Uh, it looked like something off of Lean on Me for real, for real, for real. But I mean that's literally what it is. And then the thing about it is we don't talk amongst families anymore. Think about it this way, right? Think about it. Let's just use the three of us. We gonna play like you married and got kids, okay?
One day, hopefully.
But let's say all three of us we lived in the same area, right? And all three of our wives stay at home. Um, and they all have started their own little business. Of course, my wife she got the daycare. She got the daycare. Let's say, for instance, Lee, your wife, she followed your path doing insurance from the house, or not. D, your wife helping you with your business or whatnot. She sending the orders out from the house. You know what I'm saying? While you out, we all got kids. How hard is it for us to communicate? I stay 2 doors down. Come drop your kids off. Come drop them kids off. You know what I'm saying? At the house where we know all three of us basically have the same mentality, teaching our kids the exact same thing. Where they basically are sitting around y'all, the household, the family. The joint is too easy. It's too easy to doggone communicate. Communicate with each other.
Because when you leave your kids with somebody, you want to be able to leave them with somebody that you trust, you understand, and you know what they're about, you know what their vision and their goal is. Because you would never leave your kids with somebody who has a different philosophy, a different vision, and a different goal. Because your children are your investments. And you want whatever's put into them to be put into them with careful consideration, with the big picture in mind. And that's not going to happen unless, like the example that you gave. So we got to get out of this scattered mentality, and we have to put ourselves in a position. And that's why it's so important for us to have community. And the brown people don't have any sense of community right now.
No.
So we can't get everybody to have a sense of community. That's why it's going to take, I believe it's going to take small splinter cells to start coming together. Because brown people are some show me people. When they see something starting to work, that's the only time they take into consideration to do something. And that's what it's going to take, starting with us, is we're going to have to start showing the fruits of our labor.
Yeah, you know, I get radical with it. I get radical with it for them husbands or whatnot that's trying to change it up or whatnot, especially if you don't have no house or something like that. Go stay with a friend, an open-minded friend. Let you build some capital. That's how I operate. You come stay with me. I think I done offered some of everybody. Hey, look, come stay with me for about 6-7 months, or stack your bread. Stack your bread. And find yourself something that you can control and manage on your own without her having to be at home. Y'all start from there. But how many individuals we know that's willing to do things of that particular nature? All right.
We have a mentality of it's about me and mine. And then the lazy part of us is if we are out there doing enough for ours, we don't want to do any more than that. That's a slave mentality right there.
Yeah. If I had the ability to catapult you to another level, why wouldn't I help? Even if I'm trying to get to the next level. You know, to me, it ain't no different than what is it? Leapfrog. Playing leapfrog. That's exactly what it is. You leap over my shoulders, I'm gonna come right back and leap over yours until we get to where we need to be. It's too easy. We had them type exercises when I was in the military or whatnot. You had this wood frame that was like, I think 4 or 5 different levels, right? And it was like 4 of y'all. Y'all had to climb up, make sure everybody got up. How hard is it?
It's not hard. It's just a desire. It's just a want-to mindset. That's why I said the only way that it's going to be some change is there's going to have to be some proof in the pudding. That means I feel like it starts with us. It starts with us. Let's do the things that we need to do to create the fruits that we need to create. And then once those fruits are displayed, then maybe there'll be perhaps some people that will become more open-minded to doing it that way, because it's insanity to think that you're going to do the same thing and get a different result. And what kind of results as brown people have we been getting? It hadn't been working out for us. We don't like the way our kids turning out. You know, we don't like the way we don't like how far we are in terms of closing the wealth gap. Man, we got to do something different.
My apologies for all of y'all that don't know. We in Louisiana right now. I got the whole boxing squad out here. We about to whoop some tail and come back ranked #1 again, bring these championships home. Type of deal. It looks like they about to vacate the premises, which means I get to go upstairs and jump on my actual computer. But yeah, I definitely agree. You know, definitely agree with the lady or not, and the gentleman. You know, society in a nutshell has pushed our women out of. Not only did they push us out of the home, they pushed them out of the home as well. And I think that's something that we always talk about how they pushed us out of the home. But we don't talk about how they pushed our women out of the home either. And in essence, left our kids there to raise themselves. And that narrative has to change. The only thing that, like I said, I'm concerned about is that so much pride is put into being independent. You know what I'm saying? So much pride is being put into, you know, having your own business, making your own money, and things of that particular nature or whatnot. And we've lost the importance and the glory, really, of raising our kids. You know, I think from a natural standpoint, we are built to reproduce, literally. And that is one of our biggest purposes out there. Everything else is literally minute, icing on the cake, icing on the cake. And you know, our kids, for the most part, is paying the price for it. They paying the price. They are paying the price for it, and for the sake of the next generations to come, I said we got to change the narrative. We have to change the narrative on this thing. Just do. So, what are some things that we can do like right now, like tomorrow, type of deal to start changing the narrative?
In regards to
In regards to parenting, you know what I'm saying? Changing the narrative on parenting within our generations and the generations to come.
I would probably say, do not be scared to tell your kids the truth. Don't conform to society norms of today. It's about as simple as I can put it.
Teach them about the illusion of society, because that's what it is.
That's it.
It's an illusion. You know, these TV shows, these doggone
The music.
the music, all that stuff. The majority, they don't even realize majority of rappers that they like got college degrees and education and everything else. They talking about the hood. Most times they telling somebody else's story.
That's
yeah,
a fact.
They telling somebody else's story. Where they got y'all gassed up thinking that this is the way to live. This is the way to go. You know, for me, it ain't no difference in the argument between Cardi B and what's that lady name?
Baby the Stallion.
Huh? No, it
Man,
was like Kim something. I can't remember what the hell her name was, but she was talking about basically about her performance on the awards and what it was doing to teaching our kids. And then you had Cardi that was basically saying your kids shouldn't be watching this type of deal, things of that nature. I agree with both of them, to be quite honest. You know, but those are the type narratives we have to change, you know, and it's going to be hard when there are viable points on both sides. On both sides. So
we used to depend on it. Look, we used to depend on the television station to keep certain things away from our children. Remember when you used to get the little megahertz in the middle of the night? Remember after a certain time, your TV would go off, they would sing the American song. you know, they would do the national anthem, and then it would go to a rainbow color screen. See, we don't have that anymore. And then with all of the different streaming services, YouTube's, you know, and all of the different things that you can get online with, yes, it is the parents' responsibility to monitor that. And that's the leverage that we need to try to figure out between the men and the women of the importance of having someone home with the children. Because if the streets are raising the children, they have access to anything. There needs to be someone there that's telling them, no, we're not doing this. Yes, we are doing this. And we gotta, someone has to make the decision, because like Dee said, society has made it so no one wants to be home anymore. Like, that's the most dreadful place for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
Well, traditional men, you know, they're not at home anyway if they about their business, right? But now women are saying, well, we don't want to be at home either. You talk to some women, and some women, I mean, they cringe at the thought of being at home.
Right.
They cringe at the thought.
Some of us are at home and still ain't home.
Oh.
We be in our phones more, or our video games, or the TV and things of that particular nature more, you know what I'm saying, than we do anything else. And don't get me wrong, I'm talking about myself as well. Because I know I'll be on Facebook. I got a game that on my phone that I play at least 3 times a day to make sure that I keep everything up. Trust me, I know how it is. But at the same time, gotta change the narrative. We got to. If you don't want to see this stuff that they showing on TV, stop watching it. Start watching and build a coalition of people that feel the exact same way you do, and just stop doing it. You ain't got to do no protests. You ain't got to go burn no shit down, nothing like that. Just stop watching. Because everything is built off of money. You lose views, you lose money. And that's just like old girl that was talking crazy to Cardi B or whatnot. She didn't have to say anything at all. Just find all those people that feel the exact way that you do, and stop buying her shit, and stop supporting her shit. Guess what's gonna happen?
She gonna change.
For real. For real. You ain't gotta say nothing at all. You ain't gotta argue.
You can't blame her, man. It's like when you're looking at the market, you're trying to find out what works and what doesn't work. So when we lend our attention to these certain types of behaviors, then it's only in good judgment for that person to say, well, you know, that's what I'm gonna do. You know, that's the topic and discussion that they want. That's what they like. That's what they want to see. That's what I'm gonna do. Because at the end of the day, I'm gonna make my bread. And you know, not everybody, but most people are bread driven. And so if they know something's gonna work, especially if it doesn't compromise who they are to themselves, they gonna give it a shot. You're right. You gotta just stop. You gotta turn away from it. But that's gonna take discipline, man. That's gonna take discipline from somebody to turn away from these things, because all of that ratchetivity and stuff like that is entertaining for people.
Yeah. Yeah. It sure is. For me, it ain't no different than them boys that almost put GameStop out of business. For real. They went in there and almost shut down the entire stock market. Now, I ain't talking about no rich people. I'm talking about people with a little bit of money who now started buying up all that stock, and all they did was built a little coalition and everybody followed suit. Almost put them jokers out of business. For real. There's power in doggone numbers. You ain't always got to talk about nothing, man. You know the fan. Don't talk about it, be about it. Be of action. If you don't like something, do it, put some action behind it. Stop talking about it. You're wasting your time. Which is, in essence, you know what I'm saying, what we're doing here or not. If you think that all we are doing is getting up here on Thursdays and Fridays and talking about different stuff is sadly mistaken. We put action behind what it is that we actually talking about. When I say we hold men accountable, no, we started with our own circle. With our own circle. And now we hold and now we're about to branch out and start holding other people accountable.
And I would definitely say it's definitely made a lot of positive impact within the circle too.
Yep. Yeah. And that's all it takes. You know what I'm saying? Really, if everybody held their circle accountable, everybody would be reached. Everybody would be reached. We can change the narrative on these things quicker than what we think. It ain't gonna take a whole lot of years. We can do it in this generation right here. It's just even when it comes down to that, the narrative has been painted that when some shit go wrong, especially within our community, we need to go and get up poster boards and rally all together and let's go march on somebody. And then in the midst of that, you have these other people that they throw out there. Hey, look, we need y'all to go out there and raise some ruckus, burn some shit up. You really don't have to do that. You hit people's pockets. You hit people's pockets, you will get their attention. You know, and
That's a fact.
our ancestors, doggone, our grandparents and great parents gave us the doggone the blueprint. When that stuff happened with Rosa Parks or whatnot, and they stopped riding the bus, we wouldn't have
Shut it
buses.
down.
We wouldn't have buses right now. They wouldn't. And guess what happened? They brought them to the table. Hey, we're gonna go ahead. Y'all can sit at the front of the bus. But they didn't realize how much power they had, what they had just done. They could have kept it going, put the joint clean out of business. The whole busing system put it out of business. And either that, or they could have started their own busing joint. For real. Created jobs, had money going into the community, the whole night. Make that shit way harder than what it needs to be. And it's nowhere near as hard. And the same with these politics and stuff too. We do them the exact same way. The exact same way. You don't like what you're getting or whatnot. You don't like neither one of the candidates. Sit your ass at home. For real. If you get tired of them all together, create your own. We can start our own community right now, and don't have to have.
I still think it's just gonna take. It's gonna take sacrifice and discipline.
Yeah, definitely.
Because especially in our community, we are as a whole, some damaged people. I mean, to live in America and to be brown is to be in a constant state of rage, it would seem, because of the disenfranchisement that we receive on a continuous basis. Now, these are variables. I get that and I understand that. And the change, if we want to change what's going on the outside, we got to change what's going on in the inside. So sitting back and complaining about all of these disenfranchisement, yeah, it's true, but you change the narrative by changing the discipline and your behavior and exercise that discipline. A man must first learn to deny himself. If a man can learn to deny himself and not be so codependent on others and things that mean them no good systemically, then he has a chance. Because when they dangle the carrot in front of your face, you'll be apropos to not take it because you survive without that. It's like if you ever have a food craving? And the reason that you're having a food craving is because you ate it before and it's running through your blood. And you're going through a sense of withdrawal when you're having that craving. But if you fight through that craving, eventually that craving will go away. I used to drink Mountain Dew all the time. And the reason that I'm saying this is because it lends itself to what we're trying to say here about the discipline. I used to drink Mountain Dew every day when I was a kid. And one day I went to church and the pastor was like, you need to give away, you need to think of something that you need to give up. So my family looked at me while we was in church and they was like, Mountain Dew. And so I went 2 weeks without drinking Mountain Dew. And in the beginning, it was very, very difficult and it was challenging for me. After 2 weeks passed, I ran to the store to go get me a Mountain Dew. And I didn't like the flavor of it. I didn't like the taste of it anymore. And so that's what we have to do. We have to get the taste of the things that mean us no good in our lives out of our lives. So when we go back to try to taste those, if either we just don't have a desire to have a taste for those things anymore, or if we go back to have a taste for those things, is different. And we can realize we never needed those things in the first place.
It's more than possible. And I believe, you know what I'm saying, that we're gonna do it. We got some tough roads ahead, but it's more than doable. Chris, I see you back with us now, man. Give us your thoughts.
Finally got my time back from the VA. Oh, did y'all get my message before I went off?
Yeah, we talked about it. I put it out there.
And that was one of the biggest things, because one thing that you said earlier today when you were talking about the different families, with good times, that's more close to what we're used to seeing. But it's the perfect example, because you think back to something I said maybe a week or so ago. Although they both were working parents in the household, it did not stop her from taking care of the house, which was one of the points that I made in the past. I'm like, if your man decides to let you have a job, you still have your primal. This is your prime role. This is your responsibility. This house, just like with a man, everything that he does outside is coming back for the house. But one of the issues that we have right now is, like we said earlier, we're saying for these little things. The way that we did stuff in the past is too primal, Neanderthal in its design. But as far as the question, as far as how has society of parenthood, it's affected in a negative way by giving us another option to how to parent. And a lot of that option with society, except it came from, in our community, government.
Froze up on us.
Yeah.
But
For a quick second. But governor assistant pretty much took over our houses, especially in our community. Whereas now, your life is still controlled. So they took on that mantle of the man of the house. If they decide that, okay, there's some reconstruction going on in this area, you can't live in this house, you got to up and move to another place. You can't have a man in your house. And we're going to tell you all the things that you need to do in order to be able to keep this assistance. And our women have fallen victim to that. And they don't even realize how impactful that is in a negative way to the kids that they're trying to raise. How do you train a child in an atmosphere like that? There's no solid ground, no real good foundation. There's no moral compass. There's just, all right, we got a check coming in. I mean, we may have to move. I can't have no man in my house living with me. And what do we see? The fatherless homes. And then half of them have different men in and out of the house all the time. And this I've experienced firsthand watching.
Yeah.
Our community has been jacked up by a lot of this stuff, and society has accepted it and made excuses for it, and still to this day make excuses for it because they don't want to recognize how damaging it is when you have 80+% of people that's growing up in single parent households, and wonder why a lot of these out of that percentage have the most issues or developmental issues as far as their psychosocial development. But there's a lot to it. I wish I could have chimed in earlier when everything was being said, because all three of you had hit on some points that had my head spinning, ready to add to.
Nah, it's cool. I think that is very important. You know, all of it, every aspect of it is highly, highly important, and it's even more important now because of the direction. You know, we talk about life and death. You know, when our kids leave our home to go play and things of that particular nature or whatnot, we don't know what's going to happen, especially with the melanated people. We've seen kids be killed by the police just for playing with toy guns. You know what I'm saying? For pulling Skittles from out of their doggone pockets. You know, you just never know what might happen. So for me, every edge that we can get, that's what we need to take. That's what we need to take. It needs to be someone that's always readily available in the home. Always readily available. And the way society is set up, they have trained us to believe that it can't be done. It can't. Everybody tell me, I got 7 kids that live at the house. 7. I'm like, oh man, how do you even do it? How can you even afford it? It's more than possible. It is more than possible. Yes, it is expensive having kids. But when you go back to the natural state of things, it cuts the cost. You know how much money my household has saved by simply my wife breastfeeding? And I know people out here, women, who think breastfeeding is like one of the nastiest things ever. Now, do you know how much money you save just by simply breastfeeding?
1,000.
A lot. That's probably a month. You know, a can of milk. One of them big cans of milk is damn near $50. And the kid can
And
run
they putting all kinds of stuff in the milk, man, and it's making people people don't want to hear it, but it's real. It's making they putting estrogen and stuff in that milk or whatever the case may be, and that stuff is cancerous. It's making people we're gonna leave it there. We're gonna leave it there.
I grew up off of hand-me-downs. And I had sisters. Hand-me-downs. But nowadays, you know what I'm saying, that is
The
like
need.
that's like horrible. But there's nothing wrong with it at all. Nothing wrong with it at all.
That was the way we were involved. But a lot of us, that was the thing in our community. Hand me down was on the problem, like, because for one, we had a structure, we had a hustle with it, because you had school clothes and you had to play clothes.
Yep.
So you maintained a great deal of your good stuff for you to hand down because you need good clothes. And on top of that, I mean, the greatest amount of the struggle is within probably the first 5 years of a kid, because that's the most expensive time between diaper pull-ups and all the other stuff. Once they get past that 5-year mark, then now they're eating regular food. So now it's just a grocery bill that's a little bit larger. And if you've been paying attention to what you were doing in those first 5 years of those kids, especially if they back-to-back year to year, once that last child break that point, you realize there's a whole lot more money that's saving this enough to calculate that, right?
Yeah. You'd be amazed at the ways you can save money, period. Like, I don't understand why anybody would have cable right
now. Yeah.
For real, I really don't. Why? You know, I remember when I was growing up, I wish we had doggone cable. I wish we could. So I could see all them TV shows everybody was talking about. We didn't have it. We didn't have it. And here I am. I'm removed from the home. I'm grown, paying my own bills. I'm looking at this cable bill like, yeah. I think the best thing that ever happened to me was going to live overseas.
Word.
Because it forced me to learn how to watch all them TV shows without cable.
Yep.
They messed up when look, cable is about to be out of business. I'm just gonna throw that out there. If you have stock in any cable, go ahead and pull your money out of it, because it's gonna be out of business here soon. Between Apple TV, Netflix, Hulu, Prime Video, and all them other ones, they about to put them jokers slam out of business.
Yep.
Slam out of business. All you need is the internet.
Right. And that's the thing about it too, man. It, you know, if we go to the dynamics that works in our best interest, it will awaken our dead brain cells, and it will help us to be creative, imaginative. That's what this generation lacks today, is imagination. Everything is already imagined for them, from the video games to the television. Everything's already imagined for them, and for adults too. Anything that you can conceivably think of, it's out there, and there's nothing new under the sun for that matter. So what'll happen is, because we're such an emotional people, we get our needs and our wants confused.
Yep.
And like getting some, going out, we talk about, so-and-so is not healthy, so-and-so is not doing well, or whatever the case may be. Have you ever thought about making time to take a walk at 10 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the evening, when that's the best opportunity for you to catch some sun rays? It provides you the minerals and nutrients that's lacking in your food. And instead of you looking at it like, I got to go stand out in the sun, just go and take a walk. It gives you an opportunity to meditate. It's just so many different facets of doing what you're supposed to do. You're spending time with it. Look, when I walk with my kids, we walk. It gives us an opportunity to spend time with each other. It gives us exercise. We get exposure to the sun. Meditation, thinking about things, helps you clear your thoughts. Smell the fresh air of however much fresh air you can get. But you get my point. I mean, these are the things that we have to start doing. We have to start thinking about the things that we're supposed to be doing, and we need to start instituting them, and we need to start instituting our family in them, so that, we're not lacking.
Yep. Definitely do. I tell you this, right? Every man started with sole provider. You remember how the dad was on Everybody Hates Chris? That nigga, where he basically knew the dollar amount for every wasteful thing. That's exactly how you'll be. You'll figure out ways to save money. I'm so serious. Why am I paying for this? You ain't even used it. I'll turn it off. It's not as hard when you recognize what it is that you need versus what it is that you want. telling you, things become way easier. And it always comes full circle. Because once you recognize what you need versus what you want, right? You're gonna focus on the needs. Then once you conquer the needs, next thing you know, it's gonna become availability for the wants.
Yep. Yep. That's been one of my biggest arguments of all times, because one thing I always argue is the majority of women don't really know the difference between a need and a want, or they just refuse to acknowledge it. Because the majority of the time, women are asking for things that they desire or want rather than the things that they need, not realizing that the man is there to provide for the needs of the house. And just like you said, when you pay attention to those things, it provides so much for the wants and those desires.
Yep, I definitely agree. But it's definitely it's a lot of good that can come out of it. A lot of good. Oh, excuse me, I'm hungry than the mug, man, for real. But
I think there was something that D said earlier that brought up the thought that I had a while back. But just like we're always talking about, a man is expected to be a provider. And just like you see in other content creators videos where they're talking about modern women looking for traditional men, in essence, we're stuck with that traditional role, whereas women are not. If you were to bring up any traditional role for a woman, you come off as a chauvinist, male chauvinist, pig, so forth, so on. But let's consider the fact of, all right, the man is always looked at as supposed to be a provider, even when you apply the issue of government assistance, because regardless of what happens within your relationship, you're still expected to provide for your family and your kids, irregardless of what's going on. The man is continually expected to provide, to be a provider.
That's a
Whether
fact.
it be support, whatever, you're still expected to maintain that traditional role.
yep, y'all cannot know how to cook, but we better know how to work.
Right.
Oh, for real. That's exactly 100.
Y'all remember when grandma used to have a recipe? Did y'all grandmothers used to have, like, for those who had the opportunity to experience their grandmothers or great grandmothers, do y'all remember them having like recipe books, family recipes? Like that's a foreign, that's foreign verbiage in today's world. And it's like, and I talked about the imagination. Oh, if I want to learn how to cook something, I can just go on YouTube and this, that, and the other. Remember the days where, you know, you cook from your soul, you know, you knew what to put into food. You start, you know, you thought about the things that your family loved and enjoyed and appreciated, and you mixed it all together and you made a conglomerate of love. And then everybody wanted to, ooh, what's that? What's in that? I can't tell you. It's a secret. It's a family recipe. Ain't no more family recipes.
Yep. Somebody made Soul Food, the movie. And then all of a sudden everything went downhill after that. For real. They made Soul Food, the movie. I'm like, oh, that's how them jokers still keeping it together. Yep. It went downhill. It went downhill after that, for real.
And side note, Big Mama didn't have much, boy, but she kept some money in them TVs, didn't she? So we talk about how we live in check to check and we can't save nothing. But I would say that we have more money today than Big Mama and them had yesterday. And yet and still they run circles around saving, investing. Y'all talk about that lady. Y'all talk about Good Times, right? And a lot of people don't notice about the woman that played. Okay, her name's Esther Rose. She played Florida Evans. A lot of people don't know the stock she had in the Coca-Cola, where she got her degree from, and what she was doing with her money. That's why I always tell people in my line of work, the most important person is yourself. If you don't pay yourself, what are you working for? Man, all these bills coming out, and they will come after you. How are you expected to get out of the rat race if you don't put yourself and your family first?
Yep. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap this thing up. Yeah, we can go ahead and do our final thoughts. Who want to go first?
I'll go first. For the first time. So sweet. My final thought is do what's best for your family. Once again, do not conform to what society tell you and try to teach you on how to raise your kids and how to treat your wife and your husband and so forth. Let's do what's best for you and your family. Y'all had a conversation amongst yourselves. Keep God first, always. That's it. Short and simple.
Well, I'm gonna be short myself. Learn and understand the structure of a family. Make sure it's functional. Live by that, and don't allow anybody in your house, whether it be society or the government or whatever, telling you how to live your life. Because every issue that you have, you can solve at your level. Stop letting people into your house who have no good for you.
That's it. All right, Lee.
That's it. Man, I mean, those two have summed it all up. Have a game plan and execute that game plan, man. And don't worry about what other people outside of your home think about what you're trying to do. If you and your spouse agree in terms of the direction that y'all going, and y'all can agree on how to get there, man, don't let anybody in on the secret of what you're doing for your family. Just focus and concentrate on that, because misery loves company. Somebody's going to come along and always tell you that you shouldn't be doing this or you should be doing that. And it's going to mess up the dynamics. And ain't nobody at the table of discussion between you, your wife, and your children. And stop running your families like dictatorship, man, and start running them like a government. Everybody's included. Everybody's important. Just because you got the head and the tail, you still got to work together. That's it.
Final thoughts is this, right? Men, take pride in taking care of your family. Take pride in taking care of your family. Women, take pride in making that house a home. I don't know at what point we lost it, but we need to get it back. Don't be afraid to go against the grain. Please don't. Some reason said about earlier, going against the grain is very unpopular now. Very unpopular. And don't be afraid to. Because you're not the only one that's out there that's going against it. It's as simple as that. So, again, thank everybody for taking up time to get with us on this Friday afternoon. We'll be back at it tomorrow evening, 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. It'll be 4 o'clock Central Time where I'm at right now, and 3 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. Can't wait. Again, don't forget pre-orders for all of those that have Kindle, or whatnot. Go ahead, pre-order it. The release date April 26th for the book. Be the man. If you don't follow me already on Facebook, follow me at KingNaib, KingNaib. Follow me on Facebook. On Instagram as well at king.nab, king.naib. The link to be able to go and pre-order your book is already out there. Go ahead, jump on it. Whatnot. Shout out Ateamtv. Lamar be back with us tomorrow. Tailor-Made Productions, Buckeye Financial. and whatnot, and you already know if you need the jersey, he displaying them today. Displaying them today. For real on the cast, man. If you need that jersey or anything in reference to clothing or whatnot, D is your man. He got all the throwbacks. He got every last one of them. So, but we appreciate the time, man. You already know what it is. The king has spoken. We
Word.